right, here we are back with the Beyond Coaching podcast. Today, I've got Jordan Browne from Method Barbell. Jordan, how you doing?
I am so good. I had 2 coffees today. I'm rocking and rolling.
Dude, I've had more monsters than I'm going to admit right now. Slight caffeine addiction, but Andrew Huberman says that he has 800 milligrams a day, so I'm trying to beat that.
Yeah, I think you got to double it at that point. 1.6 grams.
Easy work, easy work. So, well, hey, let's dive in. Tell me about you, how you got into coaching, and tell me about the origin of Method Barbell.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the normal origin for a lot of us starting in CrossFit and then realizing you don't want to be dying on the floor as much. So you start to like the strength work. So then I started weightlifting full time with a coach, started coaching a little bit under him, and then left that coach and eventually went through personal training school here in Edmonton. And the person who started Method Barbell just during COVID was like, I don't want to compete against you. So then he hired me on, and then he ended up leaving. So now I took over and I've been coaching for the past almost 4 years full time.
That's awesome, man. So I didn't know you were actually hired and then you ended up taking over the business.
Yeah.
Why did you make that decision?
To take over or
to take over?
It was essentially like he was starting to slowly part ways, put a little less effort, or didn't have the time because he was moving on in his life. So I started taking on more responsibilities. And then it was kind of the natural progression of like, I want to do all these things. I don't want to have to check in with like the owner or the person ahead of me, where it started to become a little bit more difficult. I didn't have as much access to the finances or the marketing and stuff like that. So then when I just took over, it was a lot easier to just get everything done by myself, especially as like a control freak. I like having all the control, so not having to go through people just made sense.
Absolutely. Did you have to buy the business or did you just sort of be able to take it on?
I paid a small amount to buy it out. It wasn't like a no 100
Was
grand
it
kind of thing.
3x EBITDA,
No.
no valuation?
Not for how it actually was valued.
Fair enough. Well, cool, man. So where's the business at today? Who are you coaching? How many people? What's that look like?
Yeah, so we're around 30 weightlifters specifically. I do just a small amount of personal training on the side of that, and then some strength and conditioning work as well. So it's around K revenue with all of the clients on board outside of like the one-on-ones. And our normal demographic is going to be a master's athlete trying to become a better version of themselves, compete in weightlifting. So I don't have that many people that don't compete or just do it kind of just as a workout method, more as like a performance or betterment method.
And do you think that's because it's the type of people you attract, or said no to those folks, or you're marketing towards the competitors?
All of the above. So I've sent people to other gyms, or when they come on, I'm like, hey, like this might not be the right fit. So this gym might be a better fit, or we don't actually have that product. So a lot of the time what I've found is people come in and want a very specific product, or want to merge a bunch of products, or be like, oh, I like this, but I want all of this for the same price. Where at that point, it's like, I don't think I have the service for you. So then I push them either back to CrossFit or back to just normal training or by themselves kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's everyone wants like a custom solution to them. And I find that, when we're growing and we're in that grind mode, I used to make custom solutions if someone wanted, the normal hybrid model of coaching that we offer, plus like some more sessions, like we would do it. But then over time you realize, wait, this person actually isn't a good fit for my culture. And they end up tanking culture or taking up way too much of your time, which takes you away from the main people in the business, and that can hurt things.
Yeah, it was definitely learning that over time of like, I had so many discounted rates too, where it's like, oh my gosh, like there's so many different things and no solutions to it, where it's like, oh, I'll charge you this for this price. And then the next person comes on and you're like, I got to charge more than that this next time. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to charge this. And
yeah.
Being in Canada, weightlifting in general is much more devalued than the States. So the prices we're able to charge are a lot lower in general. So being closer to the top end, it's like you feel guilty almost for being like, oh, I'm going to charge this XYZ. And then you get there.
Whoa, hold on. The wild Max Aita appears.
Hey guys, popping in here. See how you guys are doing. Sorry about that.
Great. I'm so glad you could join us, Max. We were just talking about Jordan and Method Barbell.
Nice. The old Alberta Strangler. I think that's what they call him. No, the Alberta Albatross.
He's telling us how Canadians don't invest as much into weightlifting as Americans do.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, the maple syrup budget eats a lot of that up, so it's kind of hard to
a liter a day, like it's hard. That plus the 4 monsters, like I don't know how we're gonna afford all that.
I think that's what Justin Trudeau ran on. He ran on the platform of, I guarantee a Canadian will get a liter a day of maple, pure maple gold every day. That's the guarantee. It's a right in Canada. It's a citizenship right. It's in one of the First Amendment they have in their constitution. So
I love it. I love it. Well, Jordan, I know we talked about your onboarding flow. So you have a 3-session intro, like a 12-week base, and like a classification system. Take me through how that works.
Yeah, so this was developed. I used a little bit of SoCal weightlifting's information that we went through in one of their courses. But what I do is I take them through 3 sessions. So it'll go through the snatch, clean, and jerk specifically, some bracing, warming up tools, and like how to focus on that. So we go from a top-down approach. So it'll be learning the receiving position into the power position and the turnover, and then moving down the chain. Depending on the athlete, sometimes that'll be a little bit longer. As we talked about earlier, like I might add a couple extra sessions on the back end if I think that they might need more time. So from there, after those 3 sessions, I have a 12-week onboarding program. So what that'll go through is 3 4-week blocks. The first block is kind of resetting those 3 sessions back to the top-down progression, but it's expanding it into like a more chaotic system. So instead of a one-on-one or like a group setting where we're doing just that lift, it goes into like our group training model where they're doing it on their own and I'm going around guiding them, kind of similar to any group class would be. So they remember, and it's the easier pieces, and then developing back over those 4 weeks. Second 4 weeks is working on a little bit more of that rhythm. So a lot of hang work plus floor work, trying to get that position above the knee or that second pull, and then transferring it down. And then in the third block, we do kind of like 1RM testing. So we build up to 1RM so we have a number to use for when we move into the next block or into that classification system. So the classification system is just a couple tiers. So we have like a more beginner tier where it's a little less rigid, less percentage-based programming, where it's more just effort-based, like 3 moderate sets of 3 in the snatch or something like that. And then it builds out for 12 weeks and then repeats. A lot more general programming, general accessories, coordination work, more extensive plyos, stuff like that to try and develop them holistically. Then we move into getting into a more intermediate beginner tier where it's going to start having a little bit more complex variations, a little more dedicated focus into developing specific patterns rather than just teaching them basic awareness and rhythm. So that'll get a little more complex. That'll move into like a competition stream. So we have 4 competitions per year planned in that stream. And then after that, we have our more performance stream where it's going to like our provincial championships or state championships for you guys, and then other meets like that. On the side of that, it's going to be very similar, but it's going to be our Masters stream. So that aligns with Masters provincials and Masters nationals. It's going to be like slightly lower volume, slightly less frequent max outs, things like that. And then we have our individualized stream where I'm tailoring the whole process. You have to essentially apply for it. So one thing that I've noticed as I've coached longer and going through that SoCal thing is realizing that not everybody needs an individualized program, which was always something that like earlier in my career I banked on, where I was like, everybody should do it because it's the most effective way. Sometimes they just need the same thing, and trying to revamp the process every time can slow the process down, where it's like, oh, I just saw this thing, I'm going to add these things in. And then you miss out on the earlier development processes of like that extensive flyos or coordination work that you might change if you get a new client on.
Yeah. Interesting. So with your onboarding, you said you do initial like 3 sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you ever feel like that sometimes with some athletes 3 isn't enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
I found,
go ahead. Well, have you experimented with adding in like more of a menu for that based on experience level?
No, it used to be 5, and I found 5 was too expensive on like a base. So I switched it recently. So I've only done 2 people at 3. So that's kind of where I'm switching towards, is making it an easier, more accessible format. And then in our consultation call, I just let them know we can also do more sessions if we feel like we need more time, need more effort in this.
Is there like a you have like KPIs, like, okay, if they can't do a squat, we're moving on to session 5. And then like, do you find that it's like the kind of thing where if somebody comes in and they already know how to lift, like, do you bypass those, or you just make them go through it still?
I'll still make them do the 3 sessions, because in that consultation call, it's usually like, where do you feel comfortable?
Right.
So usually it's like a CrossFitter where it's like, I can get a lot of really good learning in those 3 sessions. Whereas if I put them into like that group setting or into a program, then it just slows them down. And it takes a little bit longer, maybe 2-3 weeks to get what we could have done in 3 sessions.
So I'm a big fan of like good, better, best pricing. I like 3 options because it kind of gives the illusion of choice. And so like, for example, if you go to a restaurant and there's three bottles of wine, and one is, $200, one is $100, one is, $50. A lot of people end up in the middle. Well, and let's actually use like $20, $40 and like 80. People are going to end up buying the $40 bottle. They don't want to be cheap. And so so it's funny you mentioned 3. So at SoCal Powerlifting, we do 3, 5, or 7. We used to offer 3, 4, 5, or 6. 4 was too many. We got paralysis by analysis on choice there. And so when you have the 3, 5, or 7, it would allow customer to make the decision. If they're affluent enough, they can afford it, they need the help. There can be parameters too. So like for ours, it's based on training age, experience, training age, injury history, things like that. It sort of puts them in a bucket of like, hey, based on these factors, you're here. I'd recommend 3 or 5, and it gives them the choice, the either or option. And I've seen that work really well to allow you to like upsell people on the onboarding that need the help. You're not just selling to sell, but like they need the help, but also makes the 3 look like a really great option, a great deal, if they want to just get started. So versus having, we only do 5 or we only do 7, and then the barrier to entry is this intro price where we're losing clientele that could afford the monthly, but the onboarding is too expensive. So I find that works actually really, really well.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I noticed was I start to, because I'm the only coach here, so I run out of time, like time blocks that fit most people. So the 3 was kind of like that good area of like, when I was doing 5, I found it took too long. There's too many sessions that I was like running out of time through the week to do my other stuff, versus 3 was like, okay, I can get you in and out. And then the format that I'm trying to push into is having like these group learn to lift blocks. So I'm hosting one next month where it's like, okay, we have 3 sessions, or you can do this session that's coming up in a month for a lower price. And then my one-on-one sessions can either be a higher ticket item or like that individualized process.
Are these 1 hour long sessions?
For the one-on-ones, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So as far as like the tracks of people going in, once you've got somebody on board, they go to the first thing. Does anybody get an individualized program unless they are training specifically in that track, or is everybody doing the same thing?
Yeah. So I have like a pathway, drew it out on Canva, all that kind of stuff, but It'll be like, depending on their level, their experience, what their goals are, everything like that, that'll kind of fit them in. So if they do 3 sessions and they're like a CrossFitter, they snatch 100 kilos already, it's like they're not going to go into like that very new beginner stage, because they're already way past there. So they're probably going to go to that middle stage or that second or third stage through there, so that they align physically or goal centered with what that product is. Our remote or need individualized programming, let's say they have an injury or they need something specific, then they can go to the individualized straight from the 3 sessions. But a lot of the newer people that are just coming in, or newer CrossFitters, will just go through that 3 sessions, then 12-week block, then that first block. And then once they pass over a certain threshold, so we use the national classification system, or that's what I use. You could use whatever classification system you want, but then once they pass a certain threshold or other KPI that I have, then they move to the next one and the next one and the next one.
And that's the system of maple leaves, right? It's 3, 1 maple leaf is low, 2 is high, 3 is advanced. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, here instead of lights over there, they use maple leaves, right, as fluted lifts
for our polar bears when we're.
Sorry, you got 3 maple leaves on that, bud.
Sorry there, bud.
So you're not doing, like, these programs are basically coming from like a template library or something, or like, okay, and then you're just like, hey, this guy gets this guy gets that, and then you move to the next thing. And then how do you actually coach your team? I've been to your gym, I remember, but it was like probably a couple of years back. So things are different now. Or how is the coaching process done? Are everyone coming into like a team training, or they do their programming outside of that? Or
All of the above. I have a lot of shift workers.
right.
So some weeks club can be really busy. Some weeks club can be really quiet. So we have 2.5 hours, 5 days a week for our team training. Anybody on the individualized programming has access to video review. So we use Coach Now, maybe one day Coach Logic, little plug there. Then they can also post it on Train Heroic, just their videos if they need that as well, if they're not individualized.
2 apps. Wow.
I got like 15 apps. I'm just waiting, you know,
Wow.
I'm just out here.
Interesting.
That's
15 apps.
that's
I hear we have an
yeah,
all-in-one integrated solution, Max.
interesting, huh?
That they
Yeah.
actually sponsor this podcast, believe it or not.
Yeah. Who knew?
So, Jordan, it's funny. So you mentioned obviously going back to the onboarding sessions, and you mentioned time being constrained. And so that for me, time being constrained. Well, hold on. If there was an app that
Yeah.
saved you time, no. Obviously, I think one of the things we discussed too on the previous call, right, Jordan, was hiring and when to hire, how to hire, who to look for, things like that. Because ultimately, for me, I see a couple red flags. I'm like, okay, we're maybe not able to sell more sessions, which would help us with business rev. We're then maybe putting people in learn to lifts that like they can't even start for a month, so we're missing out on months of rev. They might find another gym in between talking with you and starting the learn to lift, and so we're losing potential opportunities there. So how can we solve that, right? So like for me, I do think potentially that question we need to ask is, why haven't we brought on a coach? Why are we not hiring?
So we talked about I like to have control, and I like a certain standard of what I view Method Barbell to be. So I put a couple KPI on everything. So it's certain characteristics that I need in a person, which aren't necessarily level of athletic ability. It's more dedication to sport, like mastery of self and sport. And then the very like empathetic or coachability or coaching aspects that I care a lot about. So I've had people ask if they could coach under me, and I was like, I don't think we're the right fit. On one hand, the other hand, I'm still trying to be a competitive athlete. Goal is to go international, that kind of stuff. So with that, I don't want to put that kind of mental load on trying to hire and do all of those kinds of things, because going from one employee and being a
Solopreneur.
Yeah.
to having 2 employees is a hefty jump that I don't have the mental capacity with training in my head to move forward on that.
How much of that do you feel like is based in like a systematized process versus like the actual restriction of like, I need the right guy versus like, I just don't have my systems in place that I would say I could plug somebody in. Like if you were to say, I need to replace myself, and you couldn't find obviously the guy who has the same passion for you, but like if the qualities of the person were there, is it just purely a person thing, or is it a system thing where it's like you don't feel like you would be able to rely on them to execute your system well because your system is like maybe needs more revamping? Or
I've definitely spent a long time revamping the system
yeah,
to try and figure that out. And I do like coach education. So spending that time thinking of how the SOPs or those standard operating
Right.
procedures of how I coach are. So I've been spending a lot of time recently thinking over that.
Mhm.
It's obviously not good enough where it is like I could put anybody here.
Right.
But I think those characteristics that I mentioned of like having that empathy or that communication or like emotional intelligence are really important in a coach, especially for what I want my brand to be. So it's kind of like,
have you ever documented, I guess I see 2 things. One is, so I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like the way I believe about like barbell coaching is I would rather have someone with the raw materials, the personality, the grit, the drive, with less coaching experience and potentially less competition experience. I can teach coaching. I can have them compete, but they need the personality type. I have a no asshole policy. And so for you, have you documented down like what does that person look like, or is it just this kind of vision you have in your head?
so it's this vision. I read The Ideal Team Player. It's actually on my desk. It's just a book, like a fable on what the ideal team player in a business looks like. So early in the book, they start talking about like not having jackasses on your team, where you're just trying to figure out what that means. So what they went through is like having this emotional intelligence, being driven or ambitious, and then being humble. So those were the three characteristics that is like, as they broke those three down, it was like, yeah, I see that where it's, you have the ability to communicate with others and see when they're struggling or have these conversations or these difficult conversations. Being ambitious of like, no, I got to do this because I see this being a problem in the future, or having that forward thinking, that bigger thinking of like, well, I just have to spend more time right now. That's okay. I just have to do that. And then being humble of like, one thing coming from my coaching or like my coach's background, they were all very like rigid on their opinions. So trying to be humble of like figuring out there's ways to do anything. There's so many different ways to program, to coach, to develop certain qualities or technical attributes. So not holding it to be like, this is the only way. So when I create these SOPs for the Method Barbell system, it's like creating these principle bases where it's like, okay, here's the principles. Now you just have to figure out how to apply those through methods or whatever you want to view them as. And then plug and play those and assess and guess, versus being like, this method is the way of like, I'm going to run Russian squat 4 times in a row and pray for the best.
Yeah. So, because what I'm hearing is like, I think that you've, sort of dreamed up. It's like when people try to like dream up their ideal significant other. It's like, what does that person actually look like?
It's the hot girl problem. Right?
Yeah. It's the hot crazy scale. You know, we want someone just hot enough, but not crazy. Yeah. But seriously, right? It's like if we hire someone who's really proficient in sport and coaching, they're gonna come in with their own preconceived notions and beliefs, and they might not fit in your system. But if we hire someone that is more green, that we can mold, that we can build, that has those materials, that team player that you're describing, then all of a sudden there's an opportunity there. Now that probably means more work in teaching, for sure. But what I would recommend doing is, rather than sort of letting it be this sort of like dark, scary cloud in the sky that you're kind of like trying to avoid, because obviously you have some pursuits that you want to achieve, document it down to like, what would it take to onboard a coach? And so like, even at SoCal Powerlifting, we have like an internship structure where you have to shadow 20 sessions, 10 sales, write XYZ programs, read XYZ books, and we test you on certain things. And it's like this like 16-week course that I've outlined of this is what it takes. And so for you, you can then quantify that with time and say, oh, actually, it only will take X amount of my time per week to onboard someone. And then when you have capacity to do it, you can do it. You don't have to do it right now, but it's good to have it down on paper of like, what would it take and what would I need to teach someone to get them to from A to B to be hired here at Method Barbell. And the more experience you go through with like some interviews and iterations of the process, the better it's going to get. So like I'd say the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be for you because you have less practice doing it.
Yeah.
You also get yourself into a spot where you have to remember it's a unique scenario of having limited resource, where there is a guy out there, I guarantee you, who's more passionate about coaching than you, more motivated, more ambitious, more driven, and he is not going to work for you and take the salary you can pay him. Right. So like the idea that like that person is like, you need to find somebody who you can build up, but also know that like there's a limit to what you can get, where it's like the perfect person, the perfect employee might not exist, because that person is like, if they have too much of any of those skills, if they're too ambitious, they're too capable, they would do it on their own, or they would do it somewhere else, or they'd be working in some other industry. So it's like a tough thing to be like, you balance that. Like one thing I think Zack has done super well that I was always sort of like impressed with is he seemed to have brought coaches up through the gym. So they would come as lifters and they would eventually turn into coaches. And there's a huge cultural element there where they might start off young. They're young, they're into it, they get into powerlifting, they like it a lot, they have an aptitude for coaching, they enjoy the idea of doing that, and they start to pursue it as a profession. And he has the system, like you just explained, to sort of walk them into it, where like it is hard to get like to wait for that right person to come in. So it might be that you start looking in your ranks of like, who's somebody who's super loyal, who's into this, who might want to be part of this. And you can start to slowly see if that's a fit, and onboard them, and start to get them kind of doing some of that stuff. You can always also start with like some responsibilities. You can have somebody like help you writing programs or get them into those places before you actually like hire them full on, right? Because you might find that there's a part-time person that can take on some of that work. As far as like getting them invested initially and then starting to ramp them up to be a full-time person.
Yeah. And just that, not to harp on this again too hard, but like even, I love this worksheet. So I operate my business on EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's based on the book Traction. Really recommend it. And there's a worksheet they have called Delegate and Elevate. And so what I would recommend you do is audit your time over the next 7 to 14 days and highlight things green that juice you, yellow that are kind of meh, and red that you hate doing. And those things in red, there's someone out there that you could maybe hire as a coach, but also maybe coaching's not enough money for them, but hire them to do those tasks you don't enjoy either. And now it frees up your time to do the fun stuff, the coaching, the programming that you actually want to do, rather than like the gym business or the business management stuff that you don't necessarily love. I'm not sure, right? But like, that's how I always look at it, is like, as the owner, we want to be doing the tasks with the highest leverage. And when we're tanked with monotony, our vision gets blurred, our vision is tunneled, and we're not able to look far ahead. We're stuck in the now. And that hurts our ability to grow and plan and kind of get us in the direction we want to go. So that, I think that's a really good exercise that anyone should really do if they're looking to lead a better business and grow as person and business owner.
What would be because you don't have a physical space yet, right?
No.
You're just renting it. Is that something you and like there's a lot of gym owners like I would even myself be like, I wouldn't be against going to like just renting a space, right? It's the question, like, do you have like dream aspirations to, like, do you want to try to have your own physical space, or like what is your sort of long-term vision for the whole thing?
Yeah, so Evolve system is very nice. I think you remember.
It's a great gym. Yeah.
System. It's fantastic. So I pay a very low tenant fee, and then I just get to rent out. I don't actually own any space, so anybody can like hop into my platforms. Is the downside, where it's like I don't own anything, but I have access to so much equipment. So one thing that I've like been pondering is opening a gym at some point, where if I open a gym and it's like a private facility for myself, the amount of equipment and like the quality of equipment and all of that stuff that's not just the weightlifting stuff will go down, or I won't be able to have it when I first open. So it's almost like I'd have to take like a down step to then be able to come back up to that step, where it's like right now I don't see that as a value, especially when I have so many shift workers that are like, I got to train at this time, and then early morning, late in the evening, midday kind of thing, where it's like I'm not going to be able to have that. These are the only time blocks if I open a facility kind of thing.
Yeah, I think for me, again, like I go back to like Max gave me this advice that like the gym is the expense for the coaching when I told him I want to start a gym back in like 2017. And for me, the gym gave me more leverage to coach more people. Like it gave me like a platform in a sense, location where I could market and stuff like that. But if I had before that, like I was at Juggernaut coaching athletes at Juggernaut just on the floor, just whoever was breathing, I'd just like go up to them and make them sign my form, my PayPal link. If Juggernaut never closed, I don't know if I would have opened.
Still be there.
Yeah, I'd still be there working that front desk, man, slanging sups and stuff and just doing homework.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like I think that this is a good topic because a lot of coaches that are thinking about opening a gym, I think that it needs to make sense from like a tactical standpoint. So what I'm hearing from you is like you're still working on your athletic career, you still have these personal goals you want to hit. You're still building revenue. Team is relatively small in scale. And it probably, like, if you open a gym, your training gone like for a year at least, like your time gone for 2 years maybe, right? Like, and so you have to think like, is that worth it? Am I willing to grind? Is it worth it for me to get on the other end? And maybe I 3 to 4 to 5x gross revenue, and maybe I 2 to 3x profit, because profits going to go down. These are all the questions we need to ask ourselves. And it's like, for me, I did it out of necessity because Juggernaut was closing. I had clients and I was like, well, shit, like I don't want to lose these people. And I was naive enough. I was 20 to just go and do it. But you bring up a really valid point with like, yeah, if your clients have a certain experience, like in this nicer facility, are they going to be down to go to like a gym that's a warehouse with just wooden, just platforms and barbells, and will they stay?
I've had a lot of athletes like transfer over from other gyms that are like those hole in the wall, like warehouse gyms. And they're like, this is just so much nicer. Like the equipment's nicer. I can do accessories. I have so much other stuff. I can come whenever. And it's like so different that it's such a night and day difference that I don't have to like take that cost. So what they do is they pay a membership to the facility, and then I pay a coaching facility fee. So it's like, if I opened a gym, I would have to raise my rates, and then it would just take on that.
Yeah. And I know, so we talked a little bit about marketing systems. So like right now, those are probably your biggest gaps, you told me. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. So I've spent the past couple days like putting out or getting content ready, because I always found like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do content. And then it would be like 1 or 2 days. And then I would miss a day. and I would just throw it out the window. Like that one reel that's
Sounds
like
like
you're
my
carrying the
clients.
laundry bag
Yeah.
and then you drop a sock and you just throw it over and you're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So I
yeah.
have 3 weeks ready now. So
Nice.
For me,
Okay.
that was the thing I learned was at Juggernaut was the batching of content was important. But like, yeah, that's the only way I think you can do it. It's especially because it's really hard to get a good quality take. It's a skill. It's a very difficult skill to master, the one take, like really good quality, like, hey, we did it and that's exactly what you want. And if you don't have a producer person in the room, just somebody there to say, hey, you need more energy on that, or that sounded weird the way you said that last word, you're going to be super frustrated. So like that batching it out with somebody else in the room, videographer, all that, like, because you can do, I mean, last time I did it was maybe 100 videos in a week or 3 or 4 days. And it's like you have so much content for the rest of it. It also allows you to test stuff. You can try 20 different things and build out a lot of that sort of, like, all right, let's try these other kind of little topics and all that and go from there, right? Versus just like, I'm going to do a video today and then tomorrow I'm doing another video. And it's just like never going to happen.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where it's like there's a long time horizon that needs to be had with it too. I remember when I started the SoCal Powerlifting Instagram account, and I was like, how is this ever going to be like a thing? And now, I mean, we're not that popular. It's like 12.5 thousand followers or whatever, but I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. That's like 2,000 a year or 3,000 a year, something like that. And so it adds up over time, but it's just like, it just takes time. But I know, we talked about it on our previous chat, Jordan, like, I know you don't love scripting, and so we talked about like maybe longs to shorts, teaching style content. Maybe it's medium form YouTube to then clips for social. Like the way I see this stuff is like, if we can do something that's long and we can then make multiple iterations of that is short, or if we can even take transcript from video, put it in GPT and make it a blog, like trying to repurpose everything that we create works well because we can be the most efficient with our time. And I think that's like a place to start that. And I would say probably building like an email list is just the highest conversion. I mean, Max has a lot of experience with email marketing. He can definitely touch on that stuff too.
Yeah. Your best bet is you have to remember, like, you don't own the platform. So you could get deplatformed easily off all these platforms, YouTube, social media, like all that stuff could disappear, but your email list you own. Right. So you can use your email list for forever. Email lists also, like, email marketing has like the highest return by far of all these things. And it gives you a platform to do a lot of, like, you can do like the educational side of things, right? You can create really useful, valuable piece of content and send it out. People don't necessarily unsubscribe just because they don't read it. I bet you we all have emails that come through our inbox that are like, I get ads for like barbecue grills that I'm never going to buy, but I don't delete them. I don't unsubscribe because, one, I'm like, oh, well, maybe there's a sale one day and I'll look at it. And it captures your attention better, right? So it's the kind of thing where with email marketing, you can do so much. So your goal, in my opinion, the goal of everybody should be to try to grow that list as big as possible. All of your stuff that goes through your lead magnet is going to be an email thing. They're going to get an ebook or some pamphlet or something you give them. That's an email thing. They're opting in. You also can segregate those email lists into more, you all just do weightlifting, but you might have beginners. You might have people that are looking for competition. You might have people that downloaded the snatch book, but not the clean and jerk book. So you can hit them with more targeted stuff that is going to land with those people versus just social media, where it's like you're kind of trying to do a lot of things. You're trying to appeal to the algorithm. You're trying to appeal to the content and what people are going to watch. And so it's like there's a definite major advantage to email marketing.
So if you were to create a brand new email marketing campaign, what would that look like?
Yep. So I'll dive in here. I would start with really the key. If we want to grow email marketing campaign, the fastest way is going to be doing social media paid advertising. And so what we would do is we would create an ebook, call it the 10 steps to a really good snatch, or like whatever it is, the ultimate snatch guide that you wish you had 10 years ago, whatever it is. Then people will opt in, they'll click on it. We'll target, the demographics we're going to target. They'll click on it. To get it, they have to put in their email, their name. All of a sudden, now we're getting emails. You're getting this free ebook. Email number 1 is, thank you so much for your interest. Here it is. My name is Jordan. I own Method Barbell. This is what we do. Here's your ebook. Crush it. Let me know if you have any questions. And then it's really architecting out the client pain points. So it's looking at your best clients, like who you want to coach and why do they work with you and why did they come in? What were their issues when they first came in? Not their issues now, but when they first came in. Was it they were struggling with technical cues? Was it they were sick of doing CrossFit and just like to do the Olympic lifts? So we're going to create email copy based on the client avatar and pain points, and you can create multiple iterations. And I'd recommend using AI to help you come up with 30 email ideas, sequence them, I'd say every 3 to 4 days, and then base that off of, you'll put that in the system, it'll be automated, and then each one will come with some sort of call to action. So like it could be as simple as, want to talk more about this, here's my demo booking, or here's my Coach Logic demo. No, here's my onboarding call, link or discovery call, or as simple as like respond, get strong if you want to learn more about what I do, or there's no call to action. There's just value and education. So they keep staying on your list. So I like to alternate call to actions and we test what works. I find that people are more likely to respond something versus clicking to do a discovery call right away, because there's like a lot of friction there. And so, rotating the call to actions I find is really healthy, and just seeing what works and what doesn't. Anything I missed there, Max?
No, I mean, that's it for sure. The other thing is like with email marketing, the one thing like more big, broad picture is like from a principle standpoint, like you don't make everything you do about selling, right? Like your goal should be to show your value and provide value to people. Like, so, you have an expertise that's unique. Then even though you're a weightlifting coach, like I am, you have a unique expertise, you have a unique take on it. So, showcase that in the content, give people information. I believe at this point in time, like information is, you can't sell it, right? Like the reality is anybody could write a book today and just dump all of the combined knowledge they have ever accumulated in 50 years. And tomorrow everybody has that times 10. It just spreads instantly. So it's like the value is not in the knowledge, it's in the execution. So what you should be doing is giving out information and knowledge and help, showing that you can solve people's pain points with that knowledge, right? Hey, you jump forward in the snatch, here's how you fix that. And then just kind of hit on that every so many. And then, obviously have a cadence to when you do drop a, hey, book a demo with me and I'll show you how to fix that snatch. And then we can get you set up for remote coaching or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, and next step, and we can maybe do like a follow-up on this, like maybe your homework is, Jordan, you build out this email list in the next 90 days, and then we do a follow-up on sales cycle, because like with sales and lead pipeline, there's so much more that then comes with that is, hey, those that booked a call, what kind of emails are they getting? What kind of automated text? What can we build around that? And we'll actually build an entire sales pipeline, funnel, and system as well, which that's where things get really interesting, at least for me, because that's the stuff I love. But I would say the email is a really good place to start for you.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'll fill that out.
I'd say like last piece, I know pricing has been, you're a premium in your province. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I know you want to scale without like lowering your standards. Tell me about that.
Yes. Just generally, there's already lower ticket items of people that are more retired. So they've been coaching a really long time. They're retired. They're just doing it because they love it. So their rates are like a one-on-one session price. So it's like less than $100 for coaching and everything. It's hard when your rates are over 2 times theirs for new people to come in where they're like, why would I go with you when this person is so much cheaper? And now I know there's like, well, you're more expensive, you're a higher ticket or higher quality item, so it brings value. Sometimes that just is too far of a difference. But when I'm pricing it out, it's like, this price is still on the lower end of what I view I bring value for so any of my clients stay on for a long time. I don't have churn rate issues. I just have more of like a lead magnet or a lead
Acquisition issue.
issue.
Yeah.
So like the price isn't as big of an issue. It's like the market in Alberta is just lower.
I think what would solve that is potentially revamping the onboarding process. I think step one, like what we sell. So like we're a premium option as well. Man, I was talking. So it's funny, we were talking about staff earlier. So I'm hiring right now coaches, and 5 of our clients want to be interviewed for a coaching role. And so we were talking with one of our clients yesterday, and we were like, so why'd you start powerlifting all this stuff? And he's like, oh, well, I actually heard about you guys in 2021, but my buddy said you guys were too expensive. And I was like, oh man, I guess so. We're known as the expensive option in the area. The onboarding process, though, is a client's way of understanding the value. You can sit here and tell them, but this is the best. I'm super cool and I'm really going to help you. And all of my cool gadgets and widgets and how I coach is so really awesome. It's so dope. They don't care. All they care about is where they're going to be and where you're going to get them. And so the easiest way to get them to commit is to have some sort of intro where they can get a taste of the experience before committing for longer. And so maybe it is a lower ticket option to get started, to learn to lifts, as well as your onboarding, your one-on-ones as well. So like, I would say that would be a really good solve to just get people in the door. And that's the offer you're selling. And you're telling people, like, literally what we say is like, look, don't even worry about membership right now. Don't even worry about long-term planning. All we want to get you on right now is the onboarding sessions. We want to see how you move. We want to see what your weaknesses are, your strengths. We're going to take you through some movements. And then afterwards, you're going to make a decision. Our hope is that we provide so much value in those sessions that you love it. And 99% of the people that go through the session sign up. That's what my focus would be on for sure.
You think it's a matter more of, you're saying it's a matter more of like getting a lower, like changing the angle of attack, like a lower sort of price point to get in and then showing the value more, because the wall is that people see the price and they can't extract value from price. And so they see the cost is high. So they don't know what that means, just high price. But if you can get the cost come down, you can then build in and show them the value, right? Because
yes,
again, like there is a world, like you have to remember, like the world of people charging X amount of money for the service and delivering it are very different. Anybody can have 250 remote athletes and charge $150 or $125, and there's just no way on earth they're actually delivering the level of feedback and quality and consistency that somebody who has 50 clients is, unless they're, whatever, there's some kind of superhuman, but like, it's just not possible. So
Ghost Riders.
Yeah, right. You've got other people doing it. It's like, and even then you're still in a different position, because like, it's just not going to be the same as if you've got a smaller group. So yeah, it's an interesting perspective on it.
Yeah. I mean, unless they test drive the vehicle, like they're not going to know the difference. And price is just price. It's just a number for them. And also there's something to be said about the person that's looking for the budget option. They're not meant for Method Barbell,
Right.
There's that too.
Yep. Because it's like our price is close to everybody else's price, but then we also have the gym membership.
Yeah.
So it's like, as soon as you start adding all that in, which is kind of why I switched to that seminar focus for the Learn to Lift, where I'm like, this can be a lower ticket item. And now I have to play around with, I know Rob Austin Barbell does it for free. And that was something that SoCal kind of talked about, where it's like just getting a lot of people in the door and just being like, get people in the door. And like, I'm a great coach. I'm a terrible salesman. So it's like the sales is the area, and the lead generation and the marketing is kind of where I struggle. Less the coaching and things of that nature.
Zack's a good salesman. I'm curious to hear what your thought is on, I think a lot of coaches are in the same boat where they don't feel, my guess is you probably feel uncomfortable in the sales process, because it's like you don't feel like the idea of like, it feels maybe pushy to you to like try to close somebody to like get them to commit, versus like hoping it's like more of an attraction, like, oh, they're just going to come and pay me and I'm okay with that. I could be wrong, but I'm curious what Zack's advice is here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of coaches, like, you do the gym. Let's say you're in a gym, you do a gym tour, and you're like, all right, here's we have this machine and we do this, and there's this barbell here, and like, I'm this, like, I'm a coach, I lift, I'm this strong, and well, here it is. What do you think? Like, and that's kind of the sale. And so sales gets this bad rap. It comes, I think from that sleazy used car salesman that we think about in our head, our Italian, our New Jersey, like Italian uncle that was just slanging Lincolns. But ultimately, I think that sales is really just understanding the needs and connecting the dots to the solution. So like in sales, if you're a good coach, you should be good at sales, because you're good at listening to clients and talking to people. And that's all it is. It's listening. It's actually more listening than it is talking. In fact, introverts are better salespeople than extroverts, because extroverts want to talk too much. So what I would say is in sales, what we should be doing is having some sort of, graphic, like a presentation of, that takes you along a journey of what are your pain points? Why are you here? What are you looking for? What have you tried before? Who have you worked with? If they had a coach before, then after we know enough about them and what they're looking for, going in briefly about what you do and how you do it, and just holding the mirror up and saying like, cool, so I heard you're looking for this, you're looking for that, like you struggle with this or that thing, make them feel heard, and then you just go into your solution. Cool, perfect. Well, this is what I do, and this is how we're going to solve your problem. And yeah, I mean, and not being afraid of the no. Like, after you do something 1,000 times, like it's automatic, it's robotic. So like it's the same as like coaching someone. I mean, you've done it so many times that you're just like, you don't even think, you just do. It should be the same for sales. You just need probably more practice and iterations to like perfect it. It's all it is, a conversation piece and connecting the dots. And you'll know right away if the person's not a good fit for you. Like again, if they come in and they're like, I don't want to talk to you, like, what's the price? What is it? Like, yeah, if it's just price, like they're not a good fit, like that's not going to go over well. But they're likely like hurting. They're likely like, man, either they're sick of their old gym, or they're sick of what they were doing or where their life's at, and they really want to try something new. Like, this is a perfect opportunity. And just ask them those questions. No one asks those questions. And so that's your chance. So I would pre-script some questions that you know in your head that you want to ask, and then just keep those in mind, hold the mirror up, and present the solution.
Yeah, it's also like, is it a lot of it too, like Zach saying, it's a lot about like, if you feel you have the solution, right? Like part of it might be believing more in your own solution, right? It's like, if you can sit down and be like, hey, I'm confident that I'm a great coach, I know how to do this. You know, you can talk about like, lean on that, like lean on where you feel confident and comfortable, and then start to build more confidence around the areas you don't feel so comfortable. Like, you know, if you're a coach who doesn't really think your method really works that well, but you're just kind of like tricking everybody, then like, yeah, you're not gonna convince them. You have to believe it first, right? And that just comes from like, you know, you can, right? You know, you're a good coach. You know that you have solutions. So yeah,
Definitely. Well, cool, Jordan. I always like to close with what's one piece of advice you'd give a coach trying to get in the game and start up, man?
Yeah, well, Brandon took mine, so now I got to come up with a new one.
Yeah.
How dare he? So for me, it's going to be having the hard conversations. Don't shy away from like the hard conversations with athletes, like being empathetic with your athletes, of like being able to hold space for them when they're struggling and be able to find that solution with them, or help them find that solution. A lot of coaches that I've worked with or mentored tend to like avoid those conversations, or avoid difficult conversations until it's too late. And then all of a sudden there's some big issues.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, I love that. I appreciate you taking the time today and being on the podcast, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate having me.
Awesome.